Hey gang, Tim K here, Pirate Bait Company. Got a whole bunch of new stuff in store for you today. So we're going to start out with today a brand new toy. This is called the 70-30 injector. Basically, instead of a twin tube injector that are equal 50-50, this injector is 70-30, so you get 70% of one color to 30% of another color. And while we're doing that, I'm going to run a new series of baits called, I don't know what I'm going to call them yet, summer colors. Anyway, I'll figure that out later. But the first one I'm going to run is called a perch color. I've never run it, called male perch. Basically, it has a kind of a watermelon back. And the cool thing about this injector, it allows you to get that little orange throat color. Have you ever seen a male perch? It has that orange kind of on the throat, but not a full, like a full 50-50 injector, small 70-30. So I'm gonna run a new color today, a new injector, and then I'm gonna take you into the inside shop and we're actually gonna put together the perch swim jig. So we're gonna create a full bait for you guys today. Plastic jig, new injector. Stay with me, it's gonna be a cool day. Alrighty, we're back. So we got our first color all heated up in the microwave. And really what we've got 6 cups and another container with about 3.5 cups in it. And basically, this is going to be the primary color. So as I said, my injector is 70-30. So the 70% side is going to be, which is going to be a green color. And then the 30% side, the smaller tube, is going to be the belly, which is going to be that sort of orange throat looking color. So let's get the, and again, I've never done this before, so I'm kind of winging it, so to speak. But most colors will start out as a base of something. So this is basically watermelon, Lure Works Watermelon 101. So we're going to use that as a base for the back of the perch color. So I'm just going to start out with as if I were making watermelon. So I'm going to go with 1 cc per cup. So I've got 6 cups, so I'm going to need 6 cc's of watermelon. This will hold 5, so there's 5. And we're going to go one more. Give us that 6, whoops, that's a little much. Bring her back, okay, there we go. So there's 6 cc's of Lure Works Watermelon 101. So let's stir that in and take a look at that. Probably a good starting point. Because the flake will darken it up a little bit. We're going to do a little black flake in here, a little green flake, a little gold flake, and then we're also going to add a pearl to it. And that pearl will richen it up as well. Let's start adding some color here. And the flake I'm going to, or some flake, I apologize. And I'm going to use a larger flake, because as I said, in the summertime, you know, the fish are going to have much more bolder colors. So let's start out with just, we're going to go with a half. I always do a 1/4 teaspoon because typically in a cup of plastic it's a 1/4 teaspoon, so I let it kind of stay consistent with what I'm doing. Let's see where that takes us. Definitely one more of those. I may even introduce the medium black as well. Let's just see here. Definitely want the bolder colors. Let's get a little medium black in here also. Let's see here. Here we go. Medium black. And again, I'm just going to start with 2 teaspoons. That's a little better. That really richened it up quite a bit. And again, when you have that black, you know, continues to want to darken the color up. And then the gold is actually going to start to go the other way with the color. It's going to want to lighten it or brighten it up. So let's stop there with black, and let's get a couple scoops of gold in here, because you know, perch have that sort of yellowish color going on. So let's get a gold in here. Let's do 2. Thankfully I'm videotaping this, so because I got to go back and write all this down, so I have the formula. Again, I'm being conservative because, you know, if I was mixing, you know, 1 cup of plastic, that'd be different, but, you know, we're talking about, what did I say, 6 cups of plastic here? So it's almost a half a gallon. So that's a really good start right there. Black with that bit of gold. Hopefully y'all can see inside of there. Let's throw a couple scoops of green in there. Again, just medium green. And what I'm thinking about, as I said earlier, we're going to go into my inside shop where I do all the dressing and jig making, packaging, all that sort of stuff, and we're going to do a swim jig as well. And I know the colors I use in a swim jig, and I'm just trying to coordinate the two. Because really, you know, a jig is only as good as a trailer, and the trailer is only as good as a jig you put it on. So that's really good. I like that. All right, we're going to start right there. You know, I'm going to go 1 more scoop of Big Black. 1 more. And also, once I inject the first mold, I may tweak it even more. Yeah, that's better. All right, that's really good. I like that. So we're going to start right here with this. So what temperature are we at now? 309. I'm going to put it back in the cooker, heat it up a little bit more. Then we're going to get it in our pot, and we'll let it stir while we're building the second color. So we've got our green back up to temperature 300. I think we're at 325 degrees. Our pots are warmed up. We're at 308, 305, which is perfect. So we're going to put the green in the pot, get that stirring. I do have the second color in the microwave cooking. So let's get the green in the pot, get that stirring up, and then we'll talk about the belly color here in a second. So let me get this in. I ain't got a way to figure out how to do it yet, so I got to work on that. All right, let's get this spinning and cooking. That fired up. There we go. All right. Back is in. So now we're just waiting for, oh, we're almost done here. And then we'll start working on the belly. So the belly color, as I said, or maybe I didn't say it, it's going to consist of orange, yellow, and a color called neo orange. And again, I start out with a base that I already have, a base formula that I already have. So this is the base for my fire chrome. And most companies you'll find do that. Bigger companies are not going to recreate the wheel every time they're making a new bait. They're going to take a base that they already have modified slightly, put a different name on it. It still seems a little thick. We may have to put her back in for a minute. It says 365. Let me get down here at the bottom. 350. No, we're pretty good. I just got to mix it. So as I was saying, the companies, they're not going to reinvent the wheel every time they create a new color. They start with a single base, then modify it from there, either with other colors, pearls, or glitter. So, okay. So we are in good shape here. We are 345, that's good. So we're going to start out here with our Neo Orange. And again, this is my Firecraw belly color. And the Firecraw is 30 drops per cup. And I have 3.5 cups. Right now it says 4 because when it warms up, it obviously expands. So 30 drops is, I think 40 drops is 1 cc, on here. So 30 drops is just slightly less than that. So to make math simple, we're going to say 1 cc per cup, and we'll say 3 cups. I know I started out with like 3.5 cups, but that should get us where we need to be. So let's start out with 3 cc's, and made a mess because my syringe wasn't on tight, and I'm trying to talk and shake at the same time. Thank God I'm not chewing gum. Alrighty, so there is Neo Orange, dead on, 3 cc's. Next color is, we're going to go to yellow. This is 20 drops per cup. So that's a 0.5 cc, so 1 cc for 2 cups. So we're going to call it a 1.5 cc. Yeah, that math works out right, sort of. New math, we'll call it. So we've got some air going on in there. We're going to get that out. Come on now. They're just not cooperating with me today. Again. Sometimes you got to squeeze the bottle a little bit. Oh, there we go. That's money. All right, here we go. Some yellow going on in there, and a whole lot going on my table as well. Made a heck of a mess. And straight up orange. So regular orange is 10 drops per cup. So we're going to go with 1 cc for 3 cups here. So see if we can get this one right without making a mess. Oh yeah, there we go. You got to kind of pinch the bottle a little bit, and if you don't do that, you end up with getting air inside of here. All right, so as I said, there is the base for my Firecraw. Let me see if I can clean up my disaster. Good enough. All right, let's get a stir on it. Very, very Firecraw. Because it does look pretty hot right now. And if that's the case, I can also go, just go back. I can add some black color into it, which will tone it down as well. But I'm not going to get excited yet, because when you apply the laminate, the orange against the green will naturally dull down this color. So typically your lighter colors, you want them to be a little bit on the lighter side, because when you're pairing them against a dark color, it really darkens that lighter color. Like a good example is when you do like a black-blue laminate. That blue you almost want like a sky blue, because that black really darkens that blue up. So we're gonna go, let's start out here with a 1/2 black, 2/4 teaspoons I should say. And as I said, I always use that 1/4 teaspoon because that's typically what I put in a cup of plastic. So it just makes it easier when I'm doing bulk. And you can see that black flake already darkened that up a little bit, which is great, which is what we were looking for. I'm going to add a little bit of gold to it. Yeah, I don't really want a ton. I want that orange to be sure it stands on its own. However, remember in the summertime, fish are typically going to, the water's not as clear, number one. Fish are going to be down at the bottom looking up and feeding in an upward fashion. So you want that belly to have a little bit of flash to it when the sunlight hits it. So I will add a little gold to that to give it some flash. And I may add a little bit more. That was only 1 teaspoon. Yeah, one more. Again, 2 teaspoons gold. Loving it, loving it. Now the other thing I'm going to do, remember, as I said, fish are looking up, feeding up. I'm going to add some orange flakes. So as it gets that flash, that fish, that's going to attract that fish that's laying on the bottom, looking up and feeding up. So I want to get just a little bit of orange in here. Make sure that orange really pops. It captures sunlight and flashes at the fish. So a little bit of orange in there. Oh yeah. All right, we're going to get this heated back up. We're cooled down pretty good here. We're at 284. Again, I want this to be up around 325. And then we'll put it in the pot. And this time I got the pot already heated up. So let's get this in for like a minute. That should get us there. All right, let's see what we got. Looks bubbly. And again, I don't worry too much about air bubbles with this one. The stir itself, when you put it in the pot, that helps pull some of the bubbles out and gets them out of the plastic. So let's see what our temperature here is. 325. I like it. I like it a lot. We got our pots warmed up. So let's get this in. Where's my spatula? All right. Hey, hopefully this works. As I said, I've never used this injector, so it's going to be new to all of us. All right, we'll get that stirring. Whoop. Now what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to purge out the system. Starting again, so I'm going to purge out this system because I probably had some old color a little bit inside of each one of these. I want to make sure that it's fully out of. Just a little bit is all we need. We have to adjust that a little bit. Okay, that looks good. Let's do this one here. Just a good purge. Okay. Got the green, and we gotta get the orange going up through here. Oh, there we go. Wait. It's hot already. Wow. With a glove on. Hot, hot, hot. This one, smaller tube, seems to heat up a lot faster than the big one. Basically my O-ring came off, so just put that back on. Let this heat up. All right, we're gonna let these stir for a bit. Initially, I really like it. It's kind of like my overflow deal. I don't know if you can see inside of there, but you can see the green and the orange after I purge. That's kind of what we're going for, is that green, perchy color, a little bit of pearl, and that orange throat. So fingers crossed this all works. So we got. All right, gang. I think we're ready. We're gonna let's start the process here. Fingers crossed. I gotta say I'm a little nervous because whether this comes out right or not, it's gonna get posted. So you're gonna feel and see and feel my pain if it comes out wrong. Anyways, let's start the purging process. So basically, as you see in my other videos, we'll get this in again at the bottom, the smaller tube, just so we're on the same page here. The smaller tube here is the belly color, and the belly colors are always on this side. The back colors are always over here. So when I put this in to my injection, I make sure that I always have the belly drawing from this pot and the back drawing from that pot. So let's get that started here. And as I said before, you've got to warm up this tube. Although there's a heating element where the tube rests, you got to get it warmed up. Plus this helps purge any air that might be in the tube or in that heating block in the middle between the two pots. So I do this a few times just to get that tube nice and warm. Then I'm going to inject probably one bait just to see what we got. think I gotta tweak the colors any. You know what? I'm just gonna freaking send it. We're just gonna send it, do them all. What the heck? Usually I just inject one, crack the mold, make sure I got the color right before I do the rest, but I live on the edge today. We're just gonna do it. These molds are all shad-shaped molds. They take a lot of plastic, so hopefully I've got enough plastic in these containers to run at least 2 runs of each one of those. All right, so let's I'm gonna start. I guess we'll start with the big ones right in the front. It's over here. All right, here we go. Here goes nothing. Here goes nothing. Give it a little purge. And we're gonna. So the back is over here according to my arrow. So let's see what we got here. Full, we're going to hold a little pressure on it. All right, let's go to the next one. Ooh, let's go to this one. Holding a little pressure. See, I forgot this one. I had to use this taller extender, which doesn't play well with the smaller ones. So, oh, come on now. Fingers crossed. Let's see what that came out like. What happens sometimes, what you saw just happen, there's an O-ring on the bottom of this and it gets stuck inside of that sprue extender. Wants to pull the whole deal out. I don't remember what these ones here were, but here we go. Hold a little pressure. All right, let's get these ones here done. All right, one more mold. Extenders on it, so I'm going to steal them off of one of these other guys. Let's take them off of here. These look to be pretty dry, so I'm just going to pull these out. There's what I mean by a sprue extender. Lets that sprue go all the way up. Kind of give you a little feel for what the color's going to look like too. So I got to make a few more of these. These, you know, you can buy these sprue extenders, but they're really cheap to make. It's actually 1/2-inch copper. A 1-inch piece of 1/2-inch copper and a 1/2-inch coupling. That's all it is. You just drive the copper into the coupling and you're done. So again, another little thing that saves you some money from buying it online or from some other fella that just did the same exact thing that I did. His own. Let me top this baby off, and these ones here are sucking in some too. Alrighty, last mold. Let's see what we got here. Gonna let this one here cool a little bit before I release this whole thing, and then man, we'll see what we got. Let's do it. Let's do it. So here we go. We'll start down here. These are these big bombers, swim baits. You can see that sprue extender. You see how that works? I typically don't use this big giant one, but these 1-inch ones seem to work the best. All right, here goes the first one. Let's see how we did. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, Jesus. Oh my God. This is sexy stuff. I ain't kidding you. Oh my God. Will you freaking look at this? Tell me that ain't money right there. That is that 70-30 injector. Gives us that nice orange belly, a little bit of yellow running down the tail with that green back. Oh my God, these are going to be freaking dynamite. I love this mold too. You know, it's got a hook slot in the bottom, so you can just put it on a standard swim bait head. Man, that is freaking dynamite. Holy cow. All right, I am freaking super pumped about these. Let me get these in my cooling rack behind me here, and then we'll continue demolding the rest of these. So yeah, so these have the belly slot and the back slot, so they're like weedless this time of year. They're a must-have. They're a must-have. You can put a jig head in there, weighted swim bait, rig it in the belly, weedless in the top, so it has a slot in the back as well, and pull it through that grass. It's fire. Alrighty, gang. I am freaking pumped about that one. Let's hope the rest are the same. I'm really psyched. I can't wait to see that on a swim jig. It's going to be freaking dynamite. Dynamite. All right, let's set this one here aside. So let's go. I don't remember what this one here was. What was this? Or what is this mold? I don't even know. Let's see. Here we go. Oh, what am I doing? Well, if you want a perch color flipping bait, there's one right there. What the heck, man? It's not really a bad color for a punching bait, actually. It's not a color I offer. So, all right. I knew this mold. I didn't recognize what this thing was. It's a freaking stinger mold, a punching mold. So let's just flip that upside down. Leave it in there as a spacer. If anybody wants these cool looking punch baits, put a message in the comments, and I'll send them to you for free. So if anybody wants them, I don't want to throw them away because that's what I'll end up doing with them, but if somebody wants them, let me know. Just put a comment down there, and I'll send them to you. First one that comments, you win them. But if you get them, you got to tell me if you caught fish on them. So, but yeah, put a comment down there, I'll send them to you free of charge. All right, let's get these next ones on. This one I know what it is. This one I'm pretty excited. Well, I'm excited about it. Hopefully it won't let me down. This is a bladed jig trailer. Like a bladed jig this time of the year. Ooh, if you're not throwing it, you're missing out on a lot of fish. So let's see what we got here. Fingers crossed. Oh my God, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Freaking look at that. Tell me that doesn't scream freaking male perch. Are you kidding me? That is freaking awesome. That is freaking awesome. Here are the other two. And even a little bit on the tail down here. Good Lord. Good Lord. All right, I am freaking pumped about these. Here's just another round of that same one. Oh yeah. orange throat color like a male perch. That big black flake, definitely. A little bit of gold. Oh my God. Bladed jig, summertime bladed jig trailer. Holy crap. That is going to be hot. Alrighty. So far I'm freaking pumped. And again, I've never used, I don't know what the heck took me so long, I've never used that injector. So, anywho's anyways, let's see what we got. Oh, this is, so this one is for my forward-facing sonar guys, my scopers. Oh, yeah. So if you want a forward-facing guy, and you are in perch-infested water, and you're a smallmouth guy, get out of town. Look at that freaking thing. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Oops, almost broke my neck. My cooling rack is right over here, so if you're wondering what I'm doing, I've got a rack that I hang all these on, and it's right over there. So here's just another round of that same forward-facing sonar minnow. Same deal, man. That is just freaking money right there. That is freaking sweet. And that pearl and that green just gives it a little bit of flash. And as I said, you know, summertime, when it's hot, man, those fish are buried up in that grass. And if you're running this thing, your bait, whether it's a bladed jig or whatever it is, the top of the grass, and they're feeding up, they're going to see that little flash and that little flicker, and they will explode on it. That I'll guarantee you. So here's my smaller swim bait. It's like a rib style bait. Ooh, that would pour kind of funky. There's no orange on it. I don't know why that would be, but don't know. But the other one's poured great. The orange belly, the back. This one, for some reason, is just solid green. How weird is that? So for the feller for that punching bait, if you comment below and I give you that bait, I'll send you this one as well. It didn't pour correctly, but it's still fishable. I mean, it's still a good bait. So, oh, and you know what? To get you to watch the whole video like the other guys do, at the end of the video, I'll put a keyword in there that you have to include in your comment to win the baits. So. Oh, this one I knew wasn't going to be right because I ran out. Remember I said you got to check. Oh, that's why this didn't pour correctly as well, because remember I said you got to check your injector, and I did. I ran out of plastic when I was running this mold. So we only got one. This is where it hurts to be, you know, to do laminates and you're not paying attention to what you're doing. So instead of 4 good baits, I got one, and these nubs. Anyways. Didn't even get one out of that. They're all full of air holes and air pockets and everything else. So when you're injecting, always pay attention to how much you got in those tubes, because you don't want that to happen. All right, this is also for my scoper guys, forward-facing sonar guys. Oh yeah, again, if you are in up north, perch-filled lakes. That is just deadly. Deadly. All right, let's check the last one. This one here, I think I've only ran this mold once. It's a small minnow style bait. Really small. It's good for, you know, a great little jig head. It's also really good on a like an Alabama rig. It's the smaller brother of that big one, the first one I did. Oh yeah. That came out fantastic though. Little belly, so man, if you're an A-rig guy, you know, or even a little jig head, obviously a little minnow head, a little finesse deal. But I've used these on A-rigs, and they're freaking just the right size, and they catch a ton of fish. And they came out freaking perfect. All right, man, so far I am like super pumped, man. They came out great. And I can't wait to to get some more of them done. So here's what we're gonna do, fellers. I am gonna run another run of all these, which should give me a pack size. So when I make runs, I try and get at least one pack size of everything. So that should give me a pack size of everything. Then I'm going to take you in the inside shop, and man, we're going to mix up the matching swim jig to this trailer. So let me pour these up. I'll take you indoors and we'll do a swim jig. So hang with me, get another cold snack, because I'm going to get one. And hopefully not too many wobble pops, and we'll get that swim jig poured up. So stick with me. Be right back soon. Thank you. All right, gang, we are back. Yesterday we played around with our 70-30 injector with huge success. I was pretty psyched. I've never used it before. Yesterday was the first day. And we created this color called Male Perch. And what I was looking for was to basically get this orange throat, but not have a full laminate of orange. Because in the summertime, all bait fish start retaining a darker color because they're living in grass and light's not penetrating and what they're feeding on, so on, many, many reasons, so on and so forth. So I didn't want this bold orange color to be all the way down the bait. To give you a point of reference, so this is a 70-30 injector, so 70% green, 30% orange. So to give you an idea, let me show you what a 50-50, which is what I typically shoot and what a lot of guys shoot when you're buying baits. Not only guys, but major companies, they'll shoot a 50-50 laminate. So this is a 50-50. You'll see that you've got a pretty defined line that runs down this bait, dividing the top from the bottom. This is actually a color called Pro Blue. Now to make this a summer color, which I'm probably going to do, I'll use that 70-30 and just have this white in the front and then blue-gray kind of down the back. But that's a 50-50 injector, and to kind of do a side-by-side, if I can do this. They're kind of slippery because they're oiled. But you've got a 70-30 on top and the perch, and that 50-50 injector on the bottom, and that Pro Blue Pearl. So huge success. I think these came out fantastic. Here's another one. Pretty pumped about this one. But you can see that 70-30 injection, what a great job it did. So anyways, what I want to do today, we're going to, as I mentioned, we're going to do a complete bait build. So we've got the soft plastic, we've got a trailer. We're going to wrap a swim jig in perch today. So let's get that geared up here. So I got my vise, and what I want to do, I had a fella ask me about a vise question. So he noticed my vise. This is the vise that I use. This is actually my second vise. What I like about it, it gives me 2 points of adjustment. So on the top, I'll put my jig in, and I'll show you that here in a second. Tighten it down, and then to really get it tight, you tighten this bottom screw, and it pinches that jig in really good. And the reason why that's important, when you're tying jigs that have, 4/0 hooks, such as this one, you need this heavier duty vise to hold this jig in place. The vise I had before was your typical like trout fly jig, which looked like this. This is my old one. And these little jaws in the front, they just didn't provide enough clamping force to hold that big hook. This is when you turn this, you flip this over, and it squishes. You can see how it pulls that end in and clamps. It just did not have enough clamping power. So I would not recommend that you get a vise like this. I call it a trout style vise. It's what I'm used to. I tied flies since I was around 8 years old, or maybe even younger. Anyways, do not get this style for tying jigs, swim jigs, any bass jigs, heavy jigs. Unfortunately, there's no name on this. I bought it at a local tackle shop here in Richmond called Green Top. You probably go to their website, you might see it there. But there's no brand on it anywhere. I tried to find it, but there isn't. But just make sure it has these 2 adjustments, and it's a 360 vise. So I loosen this up, I can spin this around. So that's pretty critical. Make sure it's a 360 vise with these 2 adjustment screws. So let's get this in place. We'll get our hook in, and we'll get the tie in here. tightened up. Alrighty. So I'm going to move the camera because I'm sure you don't want to stare at my ugly mug the whole time. So let me get you repositioned so you can see this as I'm tying it here. Alrighty, that could work. So again, as I said, here is my, this is a 1/2 ounce swim jig head. Green pumpkin camo. It's got green pumpkin with some black flake. I love red eyes. Anything dark color like the green pumpkin, my bluegill. I always use red eyes. Shad colors, I'll use a silver eye. But for the most part, I'll use the red eyes and the dark color. I just like that little bit of flash. Anyway, so to rig this, let me just kind of show you what I was talking about before, about these two knobs. So let's do it this way. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Let me see here. Everything's backwards with the camera. All right. So I've got this top knob here and this bottom tensioner. What I like to do is take my jig, and there's a threaded screw inside of here, obviously. Maybe you can see it in here. I like to run my hook under it and over it. Just like that. And by doing that, it locks it in really tight. So it's on the other side of the thread of this screw. It's locked in nice and tight. Then you tighten this one here down. All right, that's pretty tight, but then to really cinch it down, you go to this bottom adjuster down here, this one, and you crank that in, and it brings these tips in together, and it really pinches that jig in nice and tight. So that's what's important about this vise, or these two adjustments, and the fact that it's a 360. So if you're going to do jigs, get this kind of vise with these two adjustments. I find it's the deal, as the kids are saying. Are the kids saying that anymore? I don't know. When I was a kid, we used to say it. So, anywho's. All right, let's get ourselves together here, which isn't easy most days, but we're going to give it a whirl today. All right. So we want to start. We're going to wrap this bad boy with, let me adjust this a little more so I get it just right. There we go. That'll work. Boom. Tighten that down. So we've got our 210 denier thread in olive. And 210, when you hear these words 210 denier, that is the weight of the thread. So 210 to like 280 is a good thread weight for bass baits or saltwater baits, any big game fish. You know, trout flies for typical smaller trout are like 100 denier to like a 150 denier. But it's just, a denier is a unit of measurement for the thread. So when you hear that, that's what it means. So 210 to 280 is a good weight for thread for bass jigs. So we got our base wrapped down. As I've said in the past, I always start from the bottom. And bluegill. It's my next video, by the way. But perch, it's going to be, all my swim jigs are 4 tabs. So we've got a dark green. This is actually dark green. It's called Army Green Pumpkin. But it has a copper and green flake in it. This is the back color. The other color is a pumpkin color. That's tab 2. That's going to be more for the sides. This other color is like a translucent, but it's got some gold flake in it with the black barbed wire. Then my belly color is going to be this peachy orange color with has a little bit of green flake in it and some gold flake. So again, we're going to start from the bottom. So I take my skirt tab, just pinch it in half and bring it up. And if you'll remember, and I'll show you this in the end, I don't split my skirt in half on my swim jigs. I don't do this like you do with a regular jig, because I only want the I don't want all this under skirting material. So where are my little clampy things? Here we go. I forgot these. I'm just going to throw one of these on it just to keep everything together. And then we're going to put a couple wraps around this orange belly. Boom, boom, boom. And then just kind of tie it in place. All right, that's nice and tight, but then we want to do a couple wraps around it so we can start our next tab. So we're just going to cinch that knot down and do a couple more wraps. Alrighty. So there's our belly. We got that orange belly going. Now let's do the sides. And I work my jigs bottom, the sides, and then the top. So we'll do this side first. And the side is going to be 2 parts, actually. Well, yeah, we'll do it this way. So you take your tab, and you want to tear it in half. Oh, come on now. If you have big fingers, it becomes a challenge. Because we're going to use half on this side, then we're going to flip it around and use half on the other. This is what you don't get in a factory-produced jig. Or jigs that are used, they use those bands, the rubber band keeper holder honors. You can't do this with that. So you get good color definition this way. And good separation. I don't know if that's even the right word, but it just defines, I think, the jig much better. And basically all I'm doing is just laying one over the other, just like that. So I've got 2 colors, and it's going to be this side. So, and these 2 colors will kind of, mix in together, which is cool. So again, we're just going to run this up. And we want the majority of the color kind of leaning toward the bottom of the jig. So let's get a wrap or 2 around it just to get it held in place, and then we'll check it. All right, 1, 2, well, I just want to, you can obviously see it from here. I can't. This is where a 360 vise comes in pretty handy. I'm going to roll it, take a look at it. And again, I want the majority of it kind of going to the side, kind of like that. All right, we're good there. We're going to kind of clamp all this in place. As I said before, these little clips, you can get them on Amazon, you can get them at Walmart too, or CVS, any drugstore. They're just little mini hair clips. So put a couple wraps around that. Get her tied in place. Tied up. If you watch my other video, I just recently changed my swim jig hook to this 4/0. I love this VMC 4/0 hook. Prior to that, I was using a Gamakatsu hook, which is good. But it's kind of, Gamakatsu hooks are more finessey than, they make a good thick wire hook as well, but I just think this VMC, just from experience, is probably the best jig hook, whether it's a swim jig or a flipping jig. I just think it holds up great, holds a good point. So this is the second side. Sorry, I'm talking. So what I did, basically, we've got that side done. Now we're rolling it over to the other side. Got tied up talking about hooks. And we're going to do the same thing on this side. Again, we're taking the other 2 halves of that tab. Bing, bing. Putting them together. Like a so. And sliding it under the thread and just back up on top. And again, I want to kind of more of the color going to the side and bottom, because then this tab will be the full top, be like the back of the fish. So get a couple wraps on that. And oftentimes, guys, I use the weight of this bobbin to hold things in place. So you'll see me kind of move this so it hangs freely. A couple wraps on it. Let me just look at it. Let me rotate it and look at it. And what I'm trying to do is just make sure that the material, a lot of times when you wrap, the material wants to move around on you. So I just want to get this positioned down there. So that's good. So we'll get our little hair clip clampy thing going on here. Boom, boom, boom. Alrighty. And when I clamp this, I try to include it, kind of get it around the eye of the hook as well. It just holds everything in place really good. So let me get a couple wraps on this before it falls apart. And you'll see me wrapping this, and you'll see I may have some bulges in I'm not really overly concerned about that. Some guys you see wrap, you get a little bit of a bulge in the silicone between the threads. I'm not concerned about it. Let's throw a knot in that. And the reason why, you just, you'll wrap it, it'll eventually cover itself up, and it doesn't impact the fishability of it at all. All right, I'll put one knot in there, we'll put a couple wraps on it, and then we'll do the back. That will give us our perch color. So let's just cinch that knot in place and get a couple extra wraps around her. There we go. All right, now the back. So the back, as I said, is this dark color. So when you think of a perch, it typically has that dark green back, and then the sides are kind of lighter green down to a yellow, and then the males typically have that orange throat color. So this is going to be the backbone, or the back. And again, for the back, just like I did the belly, I'll fold it in half, and then I'll slide it underneath and bring her up. And then just let it kind of hang on my clippy. Give her a couple wraps. Check it to make sure that it's still positioned. See, as I'm wrapping it, it kind of slid this way. So before I really feed her the onions and wrap her tight, I want to kind of get it positioned right. There we go. Let's get our clamp working on that. And so I'm going to not only wrap this green out, but my final wraps, I want to twist the skirt material this way, because as I'm wrapping with my thread, it's going to want to pull the material that way. So I kind of put a twist in it going the opposite direction. Going the opposite direction. Let me get this on. There we go. Oh, for heaven's sake. It's not even cooperating with me here today. I know it's Friday, relax. Okay, here we go. All right, let's get some wraps on this bad boy. And I like to get it as tight to the head as I can. And I'll show you why when I finish this. That's the important part for me, is getting the skirt material up on that head as tight as I can. And then work my way slowly backwards. And get a pretty decent wrap on it. And I'm giving it some good tension. I mean, this 210 denier thread is pretty sturdy. But I don't want to go too far back. And I'll tell you why when I finish this jig here. All right, that's pretty good. You don't need to wrap the Jesus out of it. It's just, it'll hold together. Especially with the adhesive we use, and we'll get into that next. It holds up pretty darn good. All right, I'll get some knots on that. Usually like 3 or 4. So if you like this content, please subscribe and also hit the follow and the bell. And the reason why, I've got a whole series of videos coming up, summer baitfish series. So it's really going to take us through how to mimic baitfish and what their colors look like in the summer, because they're very different than spring. Spring baitfish are usually very light in color, washed out whites, grays, silvers. But as the summer goes on, they become darker. So that's where this perch comes into play. I've got a new color called Summer Shad that I'm going to tie up. I don't even know how I'm going to do it yet. I'm actually going to pour. I'm sorry, it's a plastic. I already have a jig head for it, a jig for it. All right, so we're good there. So let's cut that. Now, the important gluing step. So you want to take this skirt material here and just kind of pull it back, because we're going to apply some cement to those threads. And I don't want the skirt material into the cement. So I just pull it back, put a thing on it, give it a little tug backwards. The next thing I use, guys, if you haven't seen this UV cement yet, you've got to get yourself some of this. And there's no name on this, but you get it on eBay. UV glue, it's called. Just search UV glue and look for this particular one. There's 2 types that I use. There's a thin and a thick. So what I do is I take this thin and I apply it to the threads and I let it sit for a little bit. What in the world is that? Look at that. I got an old piece of thread material in there. Just so it soaks into the threads and it penetrates really, really well. So I put a little dab on it. I take my tool And I just want to run it around those threads. Coat them up really good. This is where that 360 vise comes into play. A little more on there. And again, I just want it to soak in to those threads. There we go. That's pretty good. Oh yeah, that's money right there. All right, put that away before I make a mess. Paper towels, because I have a mess. Wipe that off. The glue also comes with this cool light. So this is a UV light, and it's UV cement. So basically, in 30 seconds, I just flip this over like so. I'll just kind of let it sit here and cure up. So in about 30 seconds, it'll be nice and dry. So a lot of UV cements, I've played with a few different ones, and they kind of tacky. They don't cure up hard very quick. This particular one, this again, there's no name on it. Just it's UV glue. It came highly recommended. That's why I got it. Did a bunch of research on this UV glue. And a lot of the fly tying guys recommended this one because it cures up hard and really quick. It doesn't leave it tacky feeling. Because when you're working with flies, it's mostly feathers and finer material. And that tackiness that it would leave would screw up their flies. So they all recommended this one. And I've been using it for a while and it works really great. So we're just going to roll this way, give that a shot of UV too. UV as well. While that's curing up, we'll just kind of trim this off. And I typically leave my swim jigs a little bit long because the trailer makes a difference. Like how long you want these skirts to be. And I'll probably trim it up a little smaller. So that, yeah, you see we're already dry. That's money right there. All right, next thing we want to do. My swim jig's different than others. Most jigs, if you'll know that, will have an underskirting. That's the stuff. That's about the same length as the skirting that folds over. My swim jigs, I do not put an underskirting on. I cut it off. And the reason I do that, because I do not want this underskirting, if it were bigger, to interfere with my trailer. The jig is only as good as a trailer. Trailer is only as good as a jig. And what I was finding is that when you left this skirting long, it impacted the action of the trailer. And you wouldn't think it would, but it did. Then I find the skirting would wrap around the trailer. It was just a disaster. So I started experimenting with cutting it all off, and it's worked out great. So what I do is I'll just cut all this off. And this is where this UV glue, and I'll show you that part here in a second. So I trim it up really tight. And I know some of you fellers, if this is the first video you're watching where I'm doing swim jigs, you might be saying to yourself, well, that's just going to pull out of that threading. What the next step I do solves for that problem. So let me just get this trimmed up tight. And I'm trimming it, like here's the keeper, here's the end of the keeper right there, the trailer keeper, and there's a little bump. So I'm kind of trimming it up to that. So when I put my trailer on, it just fits up nice and tight against this. All right, that's pretty good. So the next step is, I got this again from the fly tying guys, they use the UV glue again, but they use the thick formula. And they use this to create like heads on flies, just a bulbous head. What I use it for is I put it on all these little threads and I create this kind of hard plastic UV cement head. And it really bonds all of these threads together. So basically I'm just going to run it around here. So we use the thin UV to penetrate the threads, to lock all the threads in place. And then we use this thicker to create this sort of head. and tie all those skirt strands together so they don't pull through the threads. And I'm just kind of running my tool through it to make sure it's penetrated into those threads or into those ends of the silicone skirts, and of course, down onto the jig as well. And this UV cement, it allows you to work for a long time because it doesn't cure until you hit it with that UV light. Okay, so I have that pretty well coated. Then I just take my UV light, repeat the process, boom, put this on it. And what it'll do, it's going to take all these threads, I keep saying threads, ends of the silicone skirt material, and create this sort of plasticky feeling epoxy bond and lock them all together, and also lock them to the jig and to the threads inside. So this whole thing becomes one sort of unit, we'll call it. So let that kind of cure up a little bit. And yeah, I'm pretty fired up about how these came out. Again, this is that 70-30 injector that I used yesterday to create these. So I'm really excited about that. Now let's flip this over. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put our weed guard in. And I have these weed guards. It's a black and green pumpkin blend of a weed guard. So we're going to put that in, again, using our UV cement. And the cool thing is if you're running production, I think last weekend, had a fella ordered 20 of these, and I can rip them off all in one day, package them. Yeah, see, that's nice and hard right now. But yeah, it creates this nice hard head on here. So let's get this out of the way. All right, that's good. So let's do this. Let's do our trailer next, or our weed guard, I'm sorry. All this out. Boom, boom, boom. So there is what we have. There is our perch. Piece of my dog's hair. I have dogs, and so if you buy baits from me, everything will have dog hair in it. So that is my perch swim jig. So let's put our trailer on. Our weed guard on. See, with that glue already dry, you can handle it and work with it. Before I was using 2-part epoxies, super glue, all that sort of stuff, and you had to wait until it all dried, and it was just it slowed me down. Let's get our weed guard in. And again, I'm going to use the thick UV cement. Put a nice little bead around the weed guard like that. Just make sure it's spread out evenly. All right, drop her in. Boom. And again, we'll hit her with the light. Get that cured up. But yeah, this is what's so cool about this UV cement is I can just keep working away. 30 seconds, it's going to be cured. And I don't now, in the past, I'd have to put this aside, let it cure up. Super glue I don't think holds all that well, so I would just warn you guys, don't use super glue. It just doesn't grab tight. 2-part epoxy is good. You get it as a 5-minute epoxy, but it sets up in 5 minutes, but it's 24 hours to cure. And if it's not fully cured, these silicone strands will stick to it, and it creates a heck of a... And you could not do this with... It will all clump together. Believe me. Believe a feller because he's tried. So there you go. So that's nice and cured. Alrighty, so this is what we got. Take this off. Alrighty, so we have that right there, my friends. Let me get this out of the way. That right there, my friends, is my perch swim jig. Again, it has that orange on the belly. Kind of tapers up to this goldy silver translucent, to this pumpkin barbed wire, to that dark back. what I'm going to do is I am going to trim this up, and then we're going to see what this whole kit and caboodle looks like. We're going to put that trailer on it. The way I like to trim these, so here's my hook. I trim it down about 1 inch below the hook. And what a lot of times I'll end up doing, once I put my trailer on, I may go back and trim it again. Because as I said, it depends on the trailer I'm using. So when bait fish are smaller, in the springtime when I'm using a swim jig, I'll use typically a smaller trailer. But, in the summertime, and this is a 1/2 ounce, I might be running it a little deeper or coming through grass, I may put a bigger trailer on it. So we're going to kind of see what a couple of these trailers look like. This is a big trailer that I typically don't use as a trailer. I use it as I put a jig head on it and typically throw it that way. But let's see what this bad boy looks like. And I like it because it has a hook slot on the bottom and one on the top, so I can really get this rigged up weedless if I wanted to. But for this, we're going to rig it, typical like you'd rig a swim jig. We're just going to feed it through there and see what we got. Push it up tight. So there is the perch. See, that's not bad. And see, it has that orange belly underneath here. So as it's coming through the water, and remember, summertime, bass are in that grass. They're near cover. They're going to be down in the coolest part of the water and feeding upward. So when this is coming over the top of them and this thing is kicking, and that skirt is fluttering, and they're seeing the orange flashes, they're going to fire up and hit that bait. So the bass in the summertime feed a little bit differently. They feed from the bottom up too in the spring, but most of the time in the spring they're chasing those big schools. If you have shad on your lake, that's what they're doing. But bass instinctively are an ambush predator, so they're typically feeding, lurking in the shadows, feeding bottom up. So that, my friends, is our perch swim jig. Let's try another trailer on there. Let's see what we got here. And my swim jigs, I like a trailer that has a paddle tail. This other bait, this one here, I'll use it on a swim jig, but mostly I'll use this on a bladed jig, this style. But my swim jigs will always have a paddle tail on it. We'll pull that one off. This is the one I typically use. This is my go-to swim jig trailer. Yeah, that's money right there. So that's the other one's good too, but this is like the perfect size swim jig trailer. That is money. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. But yeah, so again, the reason for not having that underskirting is when this is kicking, it doesn't have that underskirting to impede the action of the trailer. And you wouldn't think it would, but it does. It does, because these trailers, they have this thinner tail that gives them the kick, and that underskirting gets all wrapped around it, around the hook. It's a mess. So anyways, perch swim jig, guys. And if you're interested in the perch swim jig and the trailer, go to piratebaitcompany.com. I've got the swim jigs there right now. The male perch color is a new color. That's going to be posted next week. So you'll see, subscribe to piratebaitcompany.com and you'll get an alert when the new male perch color is available. So piratebaitcompany.com, perch swim jig, male perch trailer coming soon. So don't forget, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, hit me up on piratebaitcompany.com. Subscribe to that as well. And again, thank you all for watching. I greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate it. And tight lines, and we'll talk to you all soon.